Question 1. The primary reason for using Global Configuration Variable (GCVS) is often misunderstood by administrators. Sophia, a senior identity manager administrator, notices inconsistent configurations across environments, dev, test, prod, due to hard-coded values in multiple drivers. She proposes GEVS to streamline deployments. What is the main advantage of use GCVS in such a context? A. DCVS eliminate the need to define driver scopes across identity vaults. BGEVS allows centralized configuration, promoting consistency and easier maintenance. CGCVS enforce password synchronization policies across disconnected systems. DGCVS restrict designer access during driver development. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Global Configuration Variable (DCVS) enables centralized and environment-specific parameter management in Identity Manager. This supports configuration consistency, eases troubleshooting, and facilitates reuse across drivers. According to the Novell Identity Manager best practice, GCVS should be used to store configurable data like server addresses or role names to avoid hardcoding. Option A confuses scope management, which is not the purpose of GEVS. C refers to password policies, which are separate for ECVS. D is unrelated DCVS functionality. Question 2. Across different scenarios, policy filters can be used to manage which attributes are synchronized between systems. Amir configures a policy filter to synchronize only employee contact data. Later, he notices unexpected deletion of key organizational attributes in the target system. Which of the following is the most likely cause? A. The filter incorrectly includes operational attributes. B. The policy uses a matching rule instead of a creation policy. C. The schema mapping policy was removed from the policy set. D. The excluded attributes in the filter led to their deletion on the subscriber channel. Answer. Correct answer. D. Explanation. Filters define which attributes and objects are synchronized on the subscriber channel. If an attribute is excluded from the filter, it may be interpreted as it should not exist on the target system and thus removed. This behavior is defined in the Identity Manager engine's handling of filters. Option A would cause operational issues, not deletion. B is unrelated to deletion behavior. C would result in failed transformations, not unexpected deletions. Always test filters in staging environment. Question 3. Given the circumstances, password synchronization between systems must ensure consistency and security. Leon configures password synchronization between edirectory and Active Directory using items universal password and nmas. What must Leon ensure for proper password synchronization? A. That password expiration is disabled in Active Directory. B. That the edirectory universal password is configured and nmas is installed. C. That all drivers share a single SSL certificate for trust. D. That DCVS are applied to the publisher channel only. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Password synchronization in Novell Identity Manager requires the use of universal password on a directory in the presence of nmas, Novell Modular Authentication Service. Without these, password synchronization events will not be triggered or handled. Option A may help but is not required. Option C is unnecessary for password sync specifically. Option D misapplies the UGEVS and ignores the critical publisher-subscriber structure. Question 4. With respect to NDS password synchronization, what is the role of the publisher channel in propagating password changes? A. It sends the hashed password to connected applications through the remote loader. B. It passes the password in plaintext to all connected driver sets. C. It synchronizes password changes from edirectory to the connected system. D. It retrieves encrypted passwords from LDAP and stores them in the vault. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. The publisher channel is responsible for forwarding changes that occur in the identity vault, such as edirectory, to connected systems. Password changes originating in edirectory are handled here. The Identity Manager engine ensures passwords are appropriately transformed and protected. Option A is a partial truth, but the remote loader is only involved when drivers are remote. Option B is incorrect due to security best practices. Option D confuses LDAP operations with items internal mechanisms. Question 5. During the process of installing Identity Manager Engine on a Linux-based environment, Elizabeth encountered a recurring issue. Drivers appear in Designer but fail to start post-installation. She confirmed system prerequisites are satisfied and that A directory is running. What is the most probable root cause? A. The remote loader service is not installed. B. Identity Manager Engine is installed but not associated with the driver set. C. The drivers require Java 17 which is not installed. D. The DexMol modules are incompatible with the version of Designer. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Drivers must be associated with a driver set and activated via the Identity Manager Engine to operate. If drivers exist but are non-functional, they may not be linked properly. Option A applies only to remote drivers. C is unlikely unless a very recent unsupported version of Java is used. D affects development, not execution. Always verify driver association via a manager post-engine installation. Question 6. In contrast to conventional user management systems, Novell Identity Manager employs a sophisticated architecture with event-driven synchronization. Which component acts as the core mediator between Identity Vault and connected systems? A. Remote Loader Engine. B. Designer for Identity Manager. C. Metadirectory Engine. D. Identity Manager Console. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. The metadirectory engine is the core of Novell Identity Manager. It processes XML events, handles policies, transformations, and routes changes via the subscriber and publisher channels. Option A is only used when a driver must run outside the server hosting a directory. B is a design time tool, not runtime. D does not exist as the core architectural component. Question 7. From a practical standpoint, configuring a driver object involves several steps in a manager. Carlos is setting up a driver to synchronize with a PostgreSQL database. After creating the driver object and linking to the driver set, he finds that user creation events are not being propagated. Which misconfiguration is most likely? A. GDC driver lacks a custom schema extension. B. Carlos did not configure the publisher channel. C. The connection string lacks the correct GCV references. D. The filter does not include user class synchronization. Answer. Correct answer. D. Explanation. If user creation events are not being propagated, the most likely issue is that the filter does not include the user class or its relevant attributes. Filters determine what objects and attributes are synchronized. Options A and C could cause connection issues but not specifically prevent user creation events. B is incorrect if the direction of flow is subscriber target system. Question 8. By evaluating different strategies, Nadine sets up schedules for her drivers to process data every 6 hours instead of real-time synchronization. Which of the following configurations should she implement? A. Configure polling intervals using the driver's GCV settings. B. Disable the remote loader heartbeat. C. Use policy sets to define polling frequency. D. Schedule driver start-stop via a cron job or task scheduler. Answer. Correct answer. D. Explanation. Identity Manager drivers can be managed manually or through scheduled services. Using cron, Linux, or task scheduler Windows, admins can control when a driver start-stops to simulate polling. This is valid for systems where constant sync is not feasible. GEVS do not set polling intervals. A and B relates to connection monitoring. C is a misuse of policy sets. Question 9. To better understand how policies operate, Dennis creates a placement policy to determine where in the tree a user object should be created. However, users are being placed under incorrect containers. What is the likely error in Dennis's policy logic? A. He applied the policy to the event transform set instead of placement. B. The policy includes schema mismatches. C. The policy is defined only for the publisher channel. D. The transformation policy overwrites placement rules. Answer. Correct answer. Explanation. Policy types must be applied in the correct policy set. A placement policy placed under event transformation will not execute correctly as it's not evaluated during object creation, location determination. According to Novell IDEM documentation, policies are only executed in the sets they are applied to. Options B, C, and D are incorrect or unrelated to object placement behavior. Question 10. As illustrated by recent student feedback, misusing the designer workspace can lead to deployment errors. Jessica tries to deploy a modified driver from designer, but changes are not reflected in the live environment. What should Jessica verify first? A. That designer's outline view is active. B. That she selected live instead of offline mode in deployment. C. That she published the GCVS after deploying. D. That she synchronized designer preferences with a manager. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Deployments in designer require selecting the correct mode. Live deployment applies changes directly to the identity vault. If the offline is used, changes remain local. Option A affects navigation only. C is unnecessary unless GCVS are modified. D is not designer feature. Question 11. Considering the evidence, Raj is configuring a directory rights for a new driver that synchronizes user accounts. Despite assigning supervisor rights to the driver object, some attributes fail to update on the identity vault. What could be causing this behavior? A. The driver does not have rights to the organizational units where users reside. B. The driver is missing network file system and FS permissions on the server. C. Supervisor rights only apply to local vault objects, not remote ones. D. Rights inheritance is disabled for the driver container. Answer. Correct answer. Explanation. In Novell Identity Manager, assigning supervisor rights only to the driver object is insufficient if the driver needs to modify user objects located in organizational units OOS. The driver requires appropriate rights to all container objects in its scope. Without rights on OOS or the user container, attribute updates fail. Option B relates to file systems, irrelevant here. C misunderstands rights scope. D might affect rights, but is not the primary cause if rights aren't assigned properly. Question 12. Based on the information, Helena is troubleshooting why certain policies are not firing during driver execution, despite appearing active in designer. Which designer perspective or view should Helena use to validate the actual policy execution order? A. The outline view under the driver perspective. B. The policy sets perspective with the execution order tab. C. The event details view under the event perspective. D. The channel configuration workspace. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. The policy sets perspective with the execution order tab displays the exact sequence in which policies are applied during driver execution. This helps verify that policies are active and in the proper order. A outlines components but not execution order. C shows event info but not policy flow. D focuses on channel parameters, not policy validation. Question 13. When analyzing driver import failures, Malik finds that imported drivers are missing certain configurations and fail to connect properly. What is the most common cause for incomplete driver imports? A. Drivers are imported without accompanying GEVS and schema extensions. B. The import is performed using an outdated designer version. C. Drivers must be imported only through a manager, not designer. D. The target vault is read only during import. Answer. Correct answer. Explanation. Driver imports require all dependencies such as global configuration variables, GCVS, and schema extensions to be included. Missing these causes incomplete configurations and runtime failures. While designer versions B can cause compatibility issues, incomplete configuration is more often the cause. Option C is incorrect. Designer is the preferred tool for driver import-export. D can cause errors, but typically the vault prevents import altogether. Question 14. Within the framework of Identity Manager, James is designing a driver set with multiple connected applications. He observes that changes originating from one application are not being propagated back. What is a fundamental principle of channel direction in Identity Manager drivers that explains this? A. Publisher channels push changes from the vault out. The subscriber channels bring changes into the vault. B. Both channels synchronize changes bidirectionally by default. C. The remote loader only supports subscriber channels. D. Channels are disabled if drivers belong to different driver sets. Answer. Correct answer. Explanation. In Novell Identity Manager, the publisher channel is responsible for pushing changes made in the Identity Vault out to connected systems. The subscriber channel receives changes from connected systems and applies them to the Vault. This unidirectional model requires proper configuration for bidirectional synchronization. B is incorrect. A direction must be explicitly defined. C relates only to driver execute mode. D is unrelated. Question 15. From a historical standpoint, many synchronization issues arise due to mismatches in data types or formats. Sandra notices that date fields from the source system are not accepted by the target directory service during synchronization. What is the best identity manager mechanism to resolve this? A. Use transformation policies with conversion functions to map date formats. B. Configure the driver to ignore invalid data silently. C. Enable the relax schema option on the subscriber channel. D. Use an external script to pre-process data before synchronization. Answer. Correct answer. Explanation. Transformation policies provide a flexible method to convert and map attribute values between source and target formats, including date conversions. This is the recommended item best practice to handle data type mismatches. B leads to data loss. C is not a recognized item feature. And D adds complexity and reduces manageability. Question 16. Under the assumption that an identity manager driver is stuck in a hung state, which method is the safest to recover its functionality? A. Restart the driver via a manager, ensuring all operations are paused. B. Delete the driver object and recreate it. C. Restart the directory server hosting the driver. D. Force terminate the driver process from the operating system. Answer. Correct answer. Explanation. The supported and safest method to recover a hung driver is restarting it through a manager, which gracefully stops and starts the driver while managing internal queues and events. Deleting the driver object. B causes loss of configuration. Restarting the server. C affects all services unnecessary. Force killing the process. D risks corrupting driver state and data. Question 17. During the process of driver troubleshooting, Lee wants to verify which component of the driver object controls event processing and policy execution. Which component should she examine? A. The engine instance within the driver object. B. The remote loader service. C. The channel objects linked to the driver. D. The driver set container. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Channels within the driver object define event flow and processing, including subscriber, publisher, and request channels. They determine which events are processed and how policies are executed. The engine A runs the driver, but channel objects specify the event handling. The remote loader B runs remote drivers only. Driver set D groups drivers, but doesn't handle event logic. Question 18. In the context of identity manager development, why is Designer considered a critical tool for advanced administrators? A. Because Designer allows direct modification of directory schema objects. B. Because Designer facilitates creating, editing, and deploying driver configurations and policies. C. Because Designer automates driver runtime monitoring. D. Because Designer replaces the need for a manager. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Designer is the primary IDE for creating and editing identity manager driver configurations, policies, filters, and deploying them to the Vault. It does not modify the directory schema directory A. That's handled separately. It does not monitor drivers at runtime. C. Nor replace a manager. D. Which manages administrative tasks. Question 19. Taking into account driver compatibility, if an administrator upgrades Identity Manager Engine to a newer version, which step is crucial to avoid driver malfunctions? A. Upgrade all driver configurations to match the new engine version syntax. B. Delete existing drivers before upgrading the engine. C. Disable all drivers permanently before engine upgrade. D. Reinstall a directory after engine upgrade. Answer. Correct answer. Explanation. Upgrading the Identity Manager engine often requires upgrading driver configurations to comply with new syntax or engine features. Failing to do so can cause driver failures or unexpected behavior. Deleting drivers B is unnecessary and risky. Disabling drivers C temporarily may help but does not solve compatibility issues. Reinstalling a directory D is unrelated. Question 20. Given the circumstances when integrating multiple connected applications with the identity vault, what is the best approach to ensure data consistency across these applications? 8. Use a single driver set with multiple drivers, each managing one connected system, synchronized via a common identity vault. B. Configure each connected application to synchronize directly with each other without the identity vault. C. Use separate identity vaults for each connected application to isolate data flows. D. Synchronize only the identity vault to external LDAP directories. Answer. Correct answer. Explanation. The best practice is to use a single identity vault as the authoritative source, managing multiple drivers, one per connected system within a driver set. This ensures centralized synchronization, consistency, and conflict resolution. Direct synchronization between connected applications. B. Risks data inconsistency. Multiple vaults. C. Complicate administration. D. Is limiting and does not apply to all connects. Question 21. Through the lens of the Identity Manager architecture, Maya is tasked with diagnosing a delay in attribute synchronization between the Identity Vault and a connected application. She suspects event queuing issues. Which component primarily manages event queuing and processing within Identity Manager? A. The Identity Vault database itself. B. A metadirectory engine's event queue system. C. The remote loader process. D. The manager scheduler. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. The metadirectory engine manages an internal event queue, processing changes and routing events between publisher and subscriber channels. It ensures sequencing, retries, and error handling. The Identity Vault stores data but doesn't handle event queuing. A remote loader. C. Only runs remote drivers. A manager. D. Is an administrative console without event processing. Question 22. In the modern context of Identity Manager administration, Patrick uses a manager to delegate driver management tasks to junior admins. However, they report not being able to start or stop drivers. What is the most likely cause? A. Junior admins lack the start-stop driver rights on the driver objects. B. Drivers must be started and stopped only through Designer. C. The drivers are running remotely and require OL-level permissions. D. Drivers can only be started/stopped by a directory super administrators. Answer. Correct answer. Explanation. A manager permissions are granular. A users must have explicit rights to start or stop drivers on driver objects. Designer does not control runtime driver status. B. Remote drivers require OS permissions, but rights must still be granted in a manager. C. Although super admins can do everything, rights can be delegated. D. Question 23. The general consensus is that proper driver lifecycle management prevents data inconsistencies. When updating a driver configuration in a production environment, what is the safest procedure? A. Stop the driver, back up the current configuration, apply changes, then restart the driver. B. Edit the driver live while it is running to avoid downtime. C. Delete and recreate the driver with the new configuration. D. Restart a directory immediately after configuration change. Answer. Correct answer. Explanation. Stopping the driver before making changes prevents race conditions and corrupted synchronization states. Backing up ensures rollback if needed. Editing live. B. Risks unpredictable behavior. Deleting drivers. C. Is disruptive. Restarting a directory. D. Is unrelated to driver config changes. Question 24. Focusing specifically on driver object creation, John needs to set up a driver that connects to an LDAP system. He wonders what critical attribute must be correctly configured to ensure successful connection. Which attribute is essential? A. Driver ID. B. Driver contact DN, distinguished name. C. Driver time zone. D. Driver password synchronization flag. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. The context DN defines the base point in the LDAP directory where the driver will bind and synchronize. Incorrect context DN causes connection failures or incomplete sync. Driver ID A identifies the driver but is not connection specific. Time zone C is not critical for connectivity. Password sync flag D affects password operations but not connection. Question 25. Despite the fact that filters control attribute flow, Farah notices that some attributes she expects to synchronize still do not appear on the target system. What is the most probable reason? A. The attributes are excluded by a matching policy rule. B. The filters are applied only on the publisher channel, not the subscriber channel. C. The filters exclude the object class of those attributes. D. The attributes are read only in the target schema. Answer. Correct answer. See explanation. Filters applied to objects by their class and attributes. If the filter excludes the object's class, attributes tied to that object won't synchronize. Matching policies say select objects, but don't filter attributes specifically. Filters must be applied appropriately on channels. B, but exclusion due to class mismatch is more common. Read-only attributes. D, do not affect sync presence. Question 26. By evaluating the role of XML in Identity Manager, Samantha notices that during driver execution, certain event XML documents are not processed as expected. What is the reason Identity Manager uses XML documents for event processing? A. XML allows platform-independent, structured data exchange between components. B. XML compresses event data for faster network transfer. C. XML eliminates the need for policy rules in drivers. D. XML prevents unauthorized access by encrypting events. Answer. Correct answer. Explanation. Identity Manager uses XL as a flexible, extensible, and platform-independent data format to represent events between engine drivers and Volt. This facilitates parsing, transformation, and policy processing. XML does not compress data. B, nor replace policy rules. C, security features like encryption. D, requires separate mechanisms. Question 27. When faced with a requirement to upgrade driver configurations due a major Identity Manager version update, which approach is recommended? A. Use designers upgrade tools to migrate driver configurations and test in staging Volt. B. Export drivers as LDIF files and import them into the new Volt. C. Manually recreate all drivers in the new version. D. No action is needed. Drivers run seamlessly after engine upgrade. Answer. Correct answer. Explanation. Designer provides upgrade utilities to adapt driver configurations for new versions, preserving policies and filters. Testing in staging Volt prevents production issues. LDIF export import. B is not suitable for drivers. Manual recreation. C is inefficient and error-prone. Drivers often need adjustments. D after engine upgrades. Question 20. The fundamental question is when to use the remote loader for driver execution. Which scenario best justifies using the remote loader? A. When the connected system requires driver execution on a different physical server than the Identity Vault. B. When drivers require enhanced logging features. C. When the Identity Vault is running on a Windows platform. D. When deploying drivers for password synchronization only. Answer. Correct answer. Explanation. The remote loader runs drivers remotely from the Vault server, usually due to network topology, security, or performance reasons. This enables connecting to systems inaccessible from the Vault server. Logging. B is unrelated. Platform. C does not dictate remote loader use. Password sync. D can run local or remote depending on architecture. Question 29. A demonstrated by policy behavior, which policy type is specifically responsible for determining the placement of newly created objects in the Identity Vault. A. Matching policy. B. Placement policy. C. Creation policy. D. Transformation policy. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Placement policies define where new objects are created in the directory tree, guiding container, or U assignment. Matching policies determine if objects correspond to existing entries. Creation policies handle attribute initialization on object creation. Transformation policies modify attribute values during synchronization. Question 30. When evaluating the merits of policy sets, Liam wants to ensure that a set of policies is applied only under specific event conditions. How should he achieve this in Identity Manager? A. Configure conditions in the policy set to filter event types and attributes. B. Apply all policies unconditionally. Event filtering is done elsewhere. C. Use separate driver sets for each condition group. D. Embed condition logic directly into the driver object properties. Answer. Correct answer. Explanation. Policy sets allow configuring conditions that determine when the policies within the set are triggered based on event type, object, class, or attributes. This ensures fine-grained control. Applying all policies unconditionally. B. Reduces flexibility. Separate driver sets. C. Increase complexity unnecessarily. Driver objects. D. Do not hold event condition logic.